Welcome to the Childfree Wealth Podcast, hosted by Bree and Dr. J, Certified Financial Planner. Here we discuss life and finances as it relates to being child-free. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please consult your advisor before implementing any ideas heard on this podcast.
The numbers say you can do this tomorrow. The question is, can your brain do that? Which is when folks are been good savers, which you have, and I'm like, hey, you got a $2.6 million problem. You need to start spending money. It tends to break their brain a little bit. I know you read Die with Zero, but kind of where's your head at?
I have given a lot of thought to what have you, and I suppose you've read it, and a lot of thought to what he said, that don't wait and bequeath those things that are important to you until you finally croak. Mm-hmm. Those people need it now. And that's been eating at me more and more and more. And every day I see the commercials, I think I need to get with it and do some of those things in a big way now that I could do. That's
fair. And, kind of the other way to say it, it's a little morbid, but go with me, is, you'd rather give with a warm hand than a cold hand.
And I think he did exactly say that, or he said someone else came up with that. I forget who it was. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, so who are the people or organizations that you would love to help?
Of course. Well, quickly, let me explain. When I took my job, when I graduated nursing school and decided that I was not headed anywhere but right straight across the street from where I graduated to the VA. I was going to take care of the very guys that I served with. And so Tunnel to Towers were some of the other veteran ones that help vets afford things. There's a wonderful, just not very far from me here, between you and me, I guess, St. Jude's in Memphis. And so those are some of the things I've thought about. The Tunnel of Towers and St. Jude and some of those others.
Okay, so we got a lot of charities. Are there any people you want to make sure to help in particular?
Yes, a couple of nieces. Now, they're both very successful. It's not like that they sure aren't in dire need of it any means, because they're both very successful early life adults. But that would be nice.
What would you like to do for them?
Well, I guess some kind of a monetary gift type of thing.
I get the money, but the question is for what purpose? So when people talk about, my nephews get what's left over, but we have specific wants. We kind of want them to put that towards bettering themselves in different ways. It could be education, could be starting a business, could be a lot of things. Are there any specific kind of you'd like to see them do things? Or I've had some folks like, hey, I would love them to do a phenomenal trip on me and have a great experience. Is there anything you'd like to see them use the money for?
Like to see them do what with the money instead of, on a particular thing instead of money?
Well, I mean, you give them the money, but do you care what they use it for? Does that matter?
My feeling is kind of to have no preconceived notions of what I think they should do. Let them totally decide to whatever. And no, there's nothing that I have thought about that I would prefer that they do.
Okay.
That's what your question is.
Yep. The other question is kind of do they have any big milestones coming up for them? They might be buying a house or buying a car or anything like that you might want to help with.
Possibly. One of them does have a very young daughter, and I thought about starting a 529 for her. And then I thought, well, maybe I should just, so that it truly benefits her to the maximum, maybe I should specifically in my trust say that one of my Roths go to her in full instead of starting a 529 and having to have 15 or 16 or 17 more years for it to grow. It actually name her as the beneficiary? Well, I guess it would. I don't know if I would have to do it.
There's lots of ways we can do it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to start with the kind of big picture, and then we'll work on the tactics.
Possibly a college fund for her.
If you're going to do the 529, by the way, the answer is to give $5,000 a year to that 529 because that's the deductibility limit in Arkansas.
She lives in another state.
It's based on where you live, not where she lives.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because that comes off your taxes.
I'd forgotten. Oh, okay. Okay.
So there's a trick here. Just want you to know the trick. Right now, and by the way, you said so that'd be technically your grandniece, if I've got that right. How old is your grandniece?
Just turning 3.
Okay, so she's got 15 years, so who knows what college is going to look like in 15 years.
Right.
But under the current laws, one of the tricks is if you hold the account for her, now she's the beneficiary, it's in your name, it does not get counted against them for financial aid. Like I have accounts for my nephews and money in, uncle's accounts, grandfather's accounts, anything like that does not get counted. Money in parents' accounts does. It actually, it's kind of like taking advantage of the system to get it right, because you have to. But if you put, hey, I could put $5,000 a year every year into the 529 until she's 18-ish, you can get the tax benefit and she can, not have it negatively impact her. Where if she got the Roth, that would count towards her financial aid.
Okay. So my questions, I'm kind of trying to think ahead, is how tax efficient would this be to remove it from my Roth and put it into a 529?
We're not going to remove it from your Roth. We're going to touch your Roth last.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Because I forgot to say, one other burning question is, where should I start drawing money from now?
Yep. I'm going to get back to that. We got a whole bunch of
that I've got juggling. Where should it come? Okay. So that was my thought a moment ago, was take it from the Roth because it's going to be after tax monies anyway if I take it from my income, but take it from the Roth and put it in 529. But they're one and the same, you say. Okay.
Well, yeah, we've got a bunch of tax stuff we got to do. Let me just give me 1 second. I'm just building it.
Litigation.
Yeah. How you do the tax stuff is going to has a big impact on your overall plan success. Because I don't know about you, but I want to pay the government as little as I can. Legally. We always stick within the rules. But if there's ways I can save money, that would be great.
Avoidance is perfectly legal.
Yep. To your veterans causes, it sounds like a bunch. How much would you like to give to them ideally?
I got to thinking kind of about that, and I thought it would be awfully nice to give $100,000 to Tunnel to Towers and that organization, because it sounds like that what you just showed me 100% chance of it. I sure can afford that.
Okay. Do you want to do that all at once? Do you want it over time? How would you want to do it?
I hadn't given that any thought, except what's the guy that wrote Die with Zero?
Bill Perkins. Yep.
Perkins. Except that he said, give serious thought to doing this now, not later, not on down the road. They can use this now and to think about, 5,000, 10,000 or 100. I don't know. I hadn't thought through that.
Okay.
But I guess that I'd have to give that some serious thought about where I'd take that from, which accounts. But you say we're going to cover that.
We're going to come back to that. First, what I'm trying to do is get the big picture of what your goals are. And then it's like, all right, how do we actually execute on it? So that's a different question. Give me 1 second because I'm just building this in the system and I got an idea and let me see. So what I built in here was we're going to give your grandniece $5,000 every year until she's 18. Just how that works. $100,000 going to your veterans causes, and which one we goes to that, we can debate that, the Tunnel of Towers is a great idea. And then I said, what if we gave each of your nieces, you have 2 nieces? What if we gave them each $18,000 a year? Which that number is magic. That number is the amount you can give somebody that's gift when there's no tax. So I got $50,000 vacation, giving the money to the grandnieces, veterans causes, nieces. Anything I'm missing on that? Okay. So now you die with $1.5 million, but you're still good. See, part of what's happening is you have that great federal long-term care policy. All right. So that policy, I hope it comes back. I actually talked to the head of that program, like, please bring it back. And they're, of course, in their Fed world. But that is taking care of the long-term care issue for you. So I tend to say to folks, we have a solution for long-term care. We put off Social Security till 70, and then we spend the rest. We've kind of gotten halfway to the goal by giving money to the charity, to your nieces and your grandniece. And we're still traveling.
And I'm sure you've seen it over and above the long-term care, over 6 figures now in that HSA, which can be used to pay long-term care stuff.
Yeah. The one thing about the HSA, though, it looked like it's sitting in cash.
It's at Fidelity, and it's doing pretty darn well because I just moved it from HSA Bank to Fidelity, and it's I think 4.5%.
It's 4.5%, but the cost of healthcare increases by 5% every year.
Okay, so I'm losing ground.
Yeah. So a couple things on this. With HSAs, actually, let me take one more step back. Your healthcare plan right now is a high-deductible healthcare plan. Is there an option for a non-high deductible plan in there?
Absolutely. I can change every year. It's GEHA, and they are absolutely wonderful. I can change in open season every year. If I
want you to move to one with a lower out-of-pocket max and a lower deductible. The reason is when folks get over 40, I start saying stay away from high deductible plans. You've been relatively lucky and healthy, and it's worked out for you, but at some point, the high deductible plans don't work because of the out-of-pocket that goes with it. It tends to be a better choice to have a higher premium and have the lower out-of-pocket and a lower deductible, which means you won't be able to put in an HSA. But the other thing that they found is when you have a high deductible healthcare plan, people tend to avoid using it, which they put off some of the medical stuff. They put off using it, and it's not always the best choice.
Can I explain my thinking there and why I did that? Okay. When I got to looking back when it was time to sign up for Medicare after retirement, when I got to looking at the premiums and what could happen, and I got to estimating my income and IRMA and all that, at that time, when I realized I have double health coverage, I have my private and I have the VA. And so I looked at what the costs of Medicare Part B, and I said, not for me, because I can always fall back on the VA. And I just had a situation at the end of last year I had a shoulder surgery that, of course, they billed $40,000, but they cut it down and all that business and so on. I think I'm going to wind up paying $300-400. That whole thing said and done, because I got it in last year after my high deductible had been met for the year. I kind of play that way or do that. But so far, it's been extremely easy to pay the few things I have out of pocket because of having the VA.
And are you still contributing to your HSA now?
No.
Okay,
I can't.
You cannot. Okay, good.
No.
That was kind of like a test question, just to double check. Yep. I'm with you on that logic in general. The one thing I'm a little cautious about right now, there's way too much going on right now in the Fed of cutting programs and different things. And I don't know that I can 100% rely on some of the things around the VA, Medicare, other things, the way you used to. And the reason is they're trying really hard. I mean, they're trying to cut Medicare, Medicaid, a few of those things. If it's not a huge amount of difference in between a high deductible, non-high deductible, if it's like less than $100 a month, I would probably get, even if it ends up like double the insurance, just in case anything changes on the other plans. Now, you could wait and see when those changes happen and make that decision. But I just want you to be a little cautious on that. Does that make sense?
And I thought, well, at worst case, every year during open season, I can switch. I can jump ship.
Yeah. This next open season, I would debate kind of go one level up, essentially, on the options.
Yeah. Is it just off the top of my head, it's at least a couple $100 a month, I do believe, just for single coverage to go to a standard plan, I believe.
Yes. And I mean, you can take what chance you want. I tend to take very few chances on healthcare just because, I mean, one bad something can be disastrous.
Right. Well, that's the reason why I always knew that I could afford that the full annual cost of up to my high deductible plan. There's another thing that I have with that I didn't know where to put it down. In addition to my HSA and the high deductible, I have an HRA annually that GEHA contributes to my co-pays and everything. They do that rolls over every year, and it's just like more money. And that's an encouragement to keep an HDHP.
I could go back and forth. What I'm trying to do is part of the challenge of getting somebody to truly wind down their wealth or die with zero is I have to take the risk out elsewhere.
Okay.
Now, if you feel comfortable on your risk with the healthcare, you don't have to convince me. I can follow it, but it's a question of, does it hold you back from spending your other money? Because when you just said, well, I've got enough to cover the high deductible, that's kind of like a mental accounting that says, hey, I shouldn't spend that money.
Oh,
does that make sense?
Yes, I see what I may be doing.
Your success in this is actually more around kind of your ways of thinking around money than the true financial mechanics. And I've done this with folks, and we meet with the clients on a monthly basis, and it usually takes about 6 months before they go, yeah, I believe the numbers. And then their brain explodes like, well, what can I really do with this? And what I have to do often is chip away at some of these, like, well, I'm holding this aside for this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and kind of reprogram the way your brain thinks to make you feel comfortable spending it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like you can get the concept from the book, but there's a big difference between the concept and life. I mean,
put it in motion is a different story, or believe it and act on it.
Yeah. I'm thinking about another gentleman I dealt with just like you, and actually had Navy history instead. And like his big splurge was he went to like flying first class. And I'm like, great. You didn't move the needle. Like,
yeah.
But it was huge to him. I just built in there. We're giving away $40,000 a year to your niece and grandniece. We're giving away money to charity, and still you're fine.
I had a suspicion maybe I'm the problem getting my mind wrapped around that.
We always are, because the truth is you've got 70 years of experience that taught you to be good with money, save money, squirrel it away, and you've done great. And now I'm like, okay, what worked for you for the last 70 years? We're going to do something different. And by nature, your brain's like, wait, that doesn't compute.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yes,
I know.
We'll come back to it, but I just want you to think a little bit about the insurance. And I'm not going to battle it. Sometimes I'm going to tell you to do things that may not make the perfect sense, even financially. It might be a little more expensive, but it frees up your brain. Does that make sense?
Sure, I understand.
Let's talk about your investments, because I told you I promised I would do that. The HSA in cash, I want that in stock. Your HSA, you can actually, it grows tax-free. You want to be taking chances with your HSA so that it's growing over time. And we can put some in bonds and we can have a debate, but we've got to beat that 5% inflation that healthcare always increases by. Now, by the way,
when I was over at HSA Bank, I had virtually the entire balance in Devenir. It was really, the last 10 years have been phenomenal what that has become. And that's why it went to over six figures, because the bulk of it. So I just haven't had time since I switched it over from HSA Bank to Fidelity to look at the various funds. But I had definitely thought about that.
Yeah, we tend to follow three fund portfolio. So we invest the whole U.S., international, and some bonds. Something like kind of a 60-40 split for HSA, where 40% is in bonds, 60% in your equities. That's probably where I would go with that. Right now, I'm encouraging my clients to make sure they have a decent exposure to international, meaning about 20% international. The other 80% of your equities can be U.S. Right now, if I look at your investments, you have about 11% in the international. So you're a little short on the international exposure. So there's some tweaking to go there. The other thing is you've got quite a bit of money in a CD. And so you got $350 in the CD. When does that CD renew?
Hey, Childfree Wealth listeners, it's Bree. If you haven't already signed up for our newsletter, be sure to get on it, where each week we send out information regarding what's going on in the world of child-free life and finances. You can sign up by finding the link in our description.
It just did because, shall I mention names and so on?
Go right ahead. Doesn't matter to me.
Oh, okay. So Schwab is not offering anything like that again. I have a local bank, and they are very local. They're paying 5%. So I pulled it from the bulk of it from Schwab and put it at 5%. And now it's available to me to do all of these things that I want to, or I could possibly be writing checks off that money. So I've got it in hand and available right now.
So is it in the CD now or is it in cash?
No, cash.
Okay.
Savings.
In general, I like for folks that are retired to keep about 1 year of expenses in cash. All right. So about $100,000 in your case.
Yeah.
The rest I like to get invested. And the way the tax works, you're better off having your stock that's international held in a brokerage account and, getting it there because you get a tax benefit rather than your HSA or your IRAs. Cash right now, a lot of people have cash sitting on the side and there are some decent interest rates. But once again, we have this problem of inflation and are we keeping up?
Right.
And your buying power goes down over time. If you put in the stock market, it does well, we can actually donate the appreciated stock to the charities and it's a better tax benefit for you. If it sounds like there's a lot of tax things you can do, that's because there is. This is where how you plan it and how you play it is going to be important. The HSA is a thing you don't want to give to your family. So kind of a little trick on this one. If you have an HSA, it's one of the worst ones to give to the next generation because when they inherit it, if it's not your spouse, they essentially have to take all the money out immediately. It becomes like an IRA and they have to pay taxes on it.
Right.
So they have to pay income tax on it when it was tax-free before.
That's right.
So here's the trick. The trick is if you keep track of your expenses, you can reimburse yourself out of your HSA anytime, your medical expenses. You have any good records of what your medical expenses were? I mean, you've had this HSA how long?
I think I looked that up, and I think it's been since was 2013, I believe.
And did you take any money out of it?
I did recently. I actually had pretty close to 120, and I took out because I haven't touched it for so many years, and it was just growing leaps and bounds. I took out 17,000 of it because that's the part I had. My wife had one also. Mm-hmm. So I just rolled hers into mine, and I had a very small amount in cash in mine, and everything else was in Devenir. Hers was pretty much all in cash. So I took out 17 because then it was all in cash, and I knew I was going to get away from HSA Bank, and that's when I rolled it into savings at 5%. So I have taken, and I have meticulous records, receipts, and everything. I need to digitize them, but I have meticulous records going back for all of those years so that if I ever got audited, I could justify it in a heartbeat.
Perfect. Now, here's the other one to keep in mind. Your long-term care premium can be paid for by the HSA if that's not on your list.
Right.
You've got a lot of great things going on. The HSA, I want to get that invested. We'll come back to it when we talk about your estate paperwork. That's going to be one they're going to want to pay off all those expenses the year you die is the way that works. The way it works is they don't want to inherit the HSA. Instead, what they want to do is reimburse your estate, essentially, is the way you do it.
So do I need to pull it out of the trust?
Well, we'll come back to that.
Name it? Okay.
We're going to come back to that in a minute.
Okay. Okay.
Let me finish the investments, and then I've got some things on the estate planning. I'm looking at your investments, and they're at Edward Jones, and I pulled up their fee structure. And where you're at, the first 250 is at 1.35%. The next 1.3, 1.2. So you're at a blended rate about 1.3% is what you're paying annually on that.
Right.
On top of, they got these annual fees, another 0.05. And then the funds you're in, I grabbed a couple examples. This is just one of them. It's got 0.25% expense
ratio.
This one's at 0.59. This one's at 0.72.
Ugh.
So when you look at like this fund, 0.72 plus 1.35, 2%, poof.
Right.
Okay. My back of the napkin
had a bad feeling.
My back of the napkin math says you're spending about $16K a year in fees. And it might be 14, it might be 17, but like.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
I was afraid of that.
My answer is anyone that wants to die with zero, I don't know how you can work with somebody who's charging a percentage of your assets. They have a conflicting goal. They want your assets to go up because they make more money. You want it to go down. And if they're giving you advice, well, they're maybe giving you bad advice because it doesn't fit you. And it's really expensive. To me, if you're going to work with an advisor, I want you to work with a flat fee advisor. I want you to work with somebody that's actually going to work on kind of like some of this stuff around how to change your mindset, going to work on the tax stuff. The investing is the easy part. It's the other stuff that's hard. And right now you're paying quite a few fees to do it.
I was afraid of that.
It's normal. Like I see this all the time. And when I see American funds and Edward Jones, like I can start doing the math in my head and I'm like, yep.
I remember at the time when I was still working, I thought, I am so covered up. I just need to turn loose this because at 59 and a half, I had taken the former 401k thing, put it all in the TSP, and then I rolled it at 59 and a half, rolled it over there. And it has become what it is today. But I know it has chipped away at it just in fees alone. But I just needed, as the saying goes, I had to have it off my plate. I didn't have time with what I was to. So that's why I did it. And now since then, I have thought, I have got to get a hold of this and do this myself and save myself a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it yourself. You can work with a flat fee. I'm okay either way. I think my one challenge for you about doing it yourself is some of the tax planning you may, the tax rules change every week. I mean, I swear, but they're all changing at the end of the year. Some of that you may or may not be aware of. I think the other challenge you're going to have is you may want to work with somebody who's going to help you kind of push you a little bit to give more, to live more, to do that. Because when people manage it themselves and they're trying to die with zero, often they underspend a lot, where someone in your corner kind of pushing you to do what you enjoy, to give what you enjoy. I mean, I'm not saying spend frivolously, but have a plan for it. Because you've got the pensions coming in, you've got the Social Security coming in. That pretty much covers your expenses. Essentially, all the rest of your money you could blow and still be okay. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
And now there's some choices. So you were asking questions about where to take the money out of. In general, we take the money out of your taxable account first, which would be either the CD or your brokerage account. The next choice is your IRA that's traditional. You're going to pay some income tax on that, but that's okay. And then the last choice is your Roth. We could have a debate about doing some Roth conversions, but I'm probably not going to do that for you because if you're going to die with $1 million, you'll never use the money in your Roth.
Right. And I already used that option back during COVID. I forget what they called it, but I did the conversion and then paid the taxes spread out over 3 years. And I did the maximum that was allowable.
Yep.
In the Edward Jones IRA. That's how I wound up with the Edward Jones Roth.
Yeah, you can do more. I mean, we can have a look at that, but I don't know that matches your life.
Right. It may not at this point in time.
And what happens is which money you give to your nieces, which money you give to charities, which money you spend yourself, there's going to be some choices there. The other thing to keep in mind is Roth conversions are going to throw you into that IRMA problem. Now, you've only got Part A, so it's not as bad. You said you're not doing B or D through Medicare?
No, I do not have Plan B. No. No. And not, now the penalty by now is such that, and I already figured it out. And I'm probably almost at a loss right now for what I haven't paid in Plan B premiums and so on or whatever. Now, what I don't know is how far away from just going ahead and bumping myself to the top of the 22% bracket, how much further I could go.
I don't have your tax return. What we do for tax planning is we usually do it the last, November, December, last few weeks of the month of the year and go, all right, what can we do where? Because the challenge is what makes sense one year over the other year is one thing. But sometimes I'll actually have you pay more taxes in one year because it saves you more money in the future. And that sounds a little weird. Let me give you an example of it. So right now, end of the year, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act is set to roll back. Well, if it does, your tax automatically goes up 3%. Taking a little more out of your traditional this year might make sense. Now, right now, there's it's April. There's a bill kind of trying to get through Congress on the tax stuff to have that stay in place. If they don't pass that but within the next month, their next shot to pass it is those last month or so of the year, which means we end up with like a real tax planning issue of like, we don't know what 2026 is going to look like. Historically, they've even passed some tax bills into January and made them retroactive, which to me, that doesn't feel right because it's kind of like you're changing the rules of the game after the year. But the tax planning each year is going to impact you. So, for example, there's an option to give the money to charity. There's called charitable remainder trust, and there's a couple of ways you could do this where you can give them a big chunk of money up front. You get the tax deduction, but you can actually, it's like an annuity. You get money out of it each year until you die. So there's ways you can do some of that stuff where you can like make a difference for folks, but also takes care of you from a tax standpoint. Because if you give $1 million when you die, you don't get any tax breaks. So how do you maximize that year over year? Because if you're going to give $100,000 to charity this year, well, then we can take quite a bit of money out of your traditional IRA this year without you paying taxes on it. Does that make sense? Like, I mean, we're moving things up back and forth, and
I knew that I was aware of the CRT. I've always known about that and thought, well, I don't know quite how to go about it, but I knew that it was something that a lot of folks use.
Yeah, this is where I agree with you. You shouldn't be paying for an advisor for AUM, but there are other things in your financial plan. I'd love you to work with us or you work with somebody else at the flat fee to work through this stuff to get the plan in place, to figure out a tax plan year over year. The investments, you can set it and forget it. I mean, let's be real. We can do simple 3-fund portfolio, set it, forget it. Not a big deal. The total fees on those 3 funds is less than 0.1%. So you'd go from like 2% to 0.1%. Like you are essentially gaining 1.9%, right, which is a huge difference. You can set that and do that. It's that other stuff around taxing and giving that become an issue.
And some have even called it a gone fishing portfolio.
The best people from an investing standpoint are dead. There's accounts where like they don't know where the person is or where and they've just left their money in forever and it does great. Yeah. The other part of that is I want to make sure you're actually making progress towards coming towards zero.
Right.
Because you said, hey, it's not a priority. And right now we took your $2.6 million problem and made it down to like 1.5.
Got a ways to go.
It's where I start playing games. And what I usually end up doing with clients is I'll say, hey, what if we give an equal amount of money away each year that you spend on travel? So we do $50 for travel and $50,000 for giving. Sometimes that trick works in their brain because it gets them to like feel comfortable spending it. It's also a good tax structure. There's ways you can do it to make it work for you. So the other question, I'm going to try, we got to kind of come towards the end, but my other thing, I saw just the cover page for the trust. Who is going to be the trustee when you pass?
Oh, well, okay.
Welcome to the hard question.
Talked with a dear friend about this, and they talked about the nightmares of having her older brother. And he said, I don't care. I will never be caught up in this melee again. I thought about having one of the nieces. And so this person said, have someone totally objective. And I guess that back when we set up the trust, my wife had the forethought of saying, let's just have the attorney do it. Probably looking at what, $300 an hour over how hard would it be to clean up my mess? $20,000, but it probably is worth it to have someone objective do it. Because I have some situations, a situation that family-wise, there's just some problems and issues that I do not want to go that route. So I have to have someone objective, I think. Did it answer your question?
It is. And who's going to serve as your medical power of attorney and financial power of attorney?
I have spoken to the same person that suggested get someone objective, and she is completely open and said, I would be happy to do it. And I said, I will make this crystal clear for you exactly what I want done. Having been in the medical profession, I know how important this is. She's completely agreed to do it.
Good. I would make sure the paperwork's updated for that. Make sure she has the full information. Because the challenge is like, hey, you're in Panama. How do you keep her up to date and all of that? Becomes an issue. People often think about like the executor or trustee kind of after you die. That's actually the easier one. Like the harder one is while you're living, you're disabled. If that does not work out for you, so later this year, we're launching a product called Childfree Trust. So we are going to serve as executor, medical power attorney, financial power attorney for Childfree folks and their trustee. And we're building a system specifically for that. We're working with a trust company that does that provides 24/7 support and all that. The one thing to keep in mind on the plan that you outlined is they all have a single point of failure. So you got the lawyer or the friend. The question is who's the backup, which, I don't know about you, but I got bad luck. So the time I need it, are they out of town? Are they, not available? Do they pass before you? I don't know, but you need to think about that. That's why I like that's why we set it up to work with a trust company where they're fiduciaries, the legal fiduciaries, they're required to do what you want, but they also are just not one person.
And I always heard that if you do have a person, they better be a generation behind you.
Well, but that's why I like trust companies. Trust companies are built, the old school was like the XYZ Bank and Trust, which took care of grandma's stuff, and it's been there for 100 years. Like, they're built to last forever. I joke about it, but it's true that the Childfree Trust we're working on is going to bury me. So I've got quite a few years left. It's got to last, but you're going to have to update all your paperwork.
Right.
So that's going to be one of your tasks.
I recently purchased the great big thing called a knock box.
Love the knock box. Yep.
Just got it. Going to fill it all out, get it ready, and let people know where it is, and so on.
Yep, you're on the right path. And then we have to get into your accounts and beneficiaries and all that. There's some other steps there, but I bring it up because it's a big issue. You're lucky you have a friend who's willing to do it. For those who don't, it's hard. And whoever gave you the advice, they're right. Relying on family members, all that. Like, the problem is it's actually an opportunity for elder abuse. If you're like, hey, they're in the will and they're making decisions for you. Well, do they give you the good care or do they, save money so they get more in the estate? And I hate to say that happens, but it happens all the time.
Right. And kind of along those lines, I had already thought, I want to remain, if I can, and my long-term care will do it. I want to remain in this house as long as I can, because when it was completely remodeled, it was made 100% adaptable to everything to be able to age safely. And in this house, that's my intention or plan, as opposed to going to a long-term care facility or assisted living.
Yeah, and for most people, that is the goal. The way we often say it, it's about aging in the right place versus aging in place. It sounds like your house was already set up as the right place. That's great. It is more expensive. Your long-term care policy may not cover all of it, but you've got extra money. Like that's where the HSA can come in or other things, as long as somebody's willing to manage that for you. The challenge is, men on average will spend 2.2 years in care. And when you're solo, we call them soloists, single with no kids, and you don't have somebody to kind of watch out for you, you tend to need help a little bit earlier. Your spouse will normally take care of some of the things, kind of help you a little bit here or there, make sure you got your meds done, make sure you eat or whatever. So you may need to plan for a little bit earlier, but you just put that as part of your plan.
My LTC is got 5-year.
Yeah. But there's a lifetime max on it.
Correct.
So you'll hit that lifetime max out of pocket if you're staying home. You'll probably be okay for 2 years, but the cost of long-term care is just getting so expensive. It's just ridiculous. But you're in a good place. So overall, you're in a very good place. There's some optimization you want to do. I think there's some mindset work to kind of get you to truly make this part of your life. But everything you've said you want to do is possible. It's just a matter of cleaning house a little bit and going from there.
I think so. Maybe so. I kind of had an idea. I've been on the right track. I just needed some confirmation of that.
Yep. And that's why I said, I'd encourage you to get somebody to kind of give you a little kick in the butt here and there, just because I always joke about it. I have clients who, are in a situation like you, and they buy the frozen blueberries because they're $1 cheaper than the fresh. I'm like, just buy the good blueberries, fly first class. Let's have some fun. It takes a little bit of kind of a little shove to make that part of your culture.
In all the plans for this upcoming trip, I find myself saying, so what if the motel costs $150? I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
And what'll happen is, if you're not flying first class already for this trip, you should. But if you don't, what'll happen is the first time, you get over 70 and you start flying in that coach and those seats, you're all all of a sudden you don't like travel. And then you go to first class, you're like, this trip was pretty good.
I can do this a little bit longer, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds silly, but it's a small change that can have a huge impact. And paying for some folks to help you out, to maybe give you a better tour, whatever it is, rather than cutting corners. When I have folks like you, and we don't have the number yet, we'd have to figure it out, but I try to give them what a minimum spend is each year instead of a maximum, which just breaks their brain a bit. You're used to I got to stay within my budget. I got to stay below it. And I'm going, no, you got to go outside this number. And that's where it's your brain's that just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So what questions do you have for me?
I don't know that I have anything that's burning a hole in my brain right now. I don't have a clue how I would approach this, taking over this investment thing, except for, and I've already, been on NAFPA.
NAPFA, yep.
NAPFA, and have started trying to say, okay, maybe that particular local thing could be a pretty good fit for me. And I think I'm going to reach out to some of those folks and say, okay, so here's what I want to do. Would you be willing to tell me am I on the right track here?
Yep.
And then the thorny issue of going and saying adios to.
Well, actually, that can be very easy. We can make that happen magically in the background. You don't even have to say goodbye if you don't want to. I think here's my challenge to you. If you're going to work with a financial planner, I want you to ask them how your plan is different because you're child-free.
Ah, yes, I read a book about that. How important
and if they don't have an answer, that's a problem. We'd love to work with you. The way we do it, we charge $10,000 for the year. It's a flat fee.
Right. Right.
We can either advise you on the investments, or you can do it yourself. We've had folks do that. Some people come grab us for a year, get everything set up, and then go on their own, whatever it is. You've got that mindset shift stuff is actually the bigger thing I worry about with you. So that's where I would spend a little bit more time. If you're going to do kind of like an hourly planner just to help you move things, there's a company called Nectarine that does that. The downside of that is just tactical. Let me move this. Let me do that. It's not looking at that bigger picture. That's a balancing act. You might want to think about, hey, I've been paying $15,000, $16,000 a year in fees. All we do is work with child-free folks. If I work with somebody that specializes in that, I can save money, do it for a year, and then move out on my own or where, as I feel comfortable, because you're not, you can cancel at any time. You can do your thing, but you can get it set up. I think some of the things around kind of we could talk about the charitable trust and some of that, there's a bunch of tax planning, a bunch of kind of mindset stuff. Diving into the estate a little bit more is one of those priorities. The investments is something that can be fixed, in a month. And if you like Fidelity, you can move them to Fidelity. Because they're in an IRA, you can rebalance them at any time. There's no fees there. That's actually the easiest part of your whole plan. That's like a couple weeks of work, just doing the paperwork. And if you don't want to talk to the Edward Jones folks, you can just, have Fidelity pull the stuff over and it just magically comes out of their account. Now, by the way, they'll call you and chase you down because they're losing $15,000 a year in fees.
Oh, sure.
If, NAFA is a great place for people that are fee only. That's the term. They're not selling you anything, but make sure they understand how things are different because you're child free. I'm actually speaking at the NAFA conference in a month. And my topic there is how is it different because they're child free? And it's interesting. A lot of the group is starting to learn and starting to kind of grow on it. But a lot of them are like, I've never planned for dying with zero. How the heck do you do that? It's just not their expertise. There's nothing wrong about it. I always joke about it. I have a colleague who runs a firm called The Wealthy Parent. Like, that's what she works on. Don't ask her about child free stuff. Don't ask me about parent stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody kind of has their own niche because nowadays, because everything's virtual, you can work with people anywhere in the country. Who cares? Find somebody that specializes in you.
Yeah. And this kind of thing is pretty new to me. It really began to come to the fore at the VA just after I left. And so this is kind of new to me, but I have one local that I've thought about reaching out to. So it's always one of those you can have an introductory talk. So
they'll do the free talk. Just be sure to ask them the questions. You want to make sure they're fee only, not fee based.
Absolutely. I have long thought that is the only route I'm going to go. If I ever go any direction again, that is the sole route.
What we're going to do is after this, and we're recording this on Friday, so probably Monday or Tuesday by the time you get it, we're going to send you a checkup report that's got a whole kind of review of everything we just talked about, red, yellow, green, what's working, what's not. Here's the priorities. And if you want to work with us, it's got how to do that. We're not chasing you down like that's, that's not how we do our business. But it'll have that in there. And what it will do is it'll give you a roadmap. Kind of like, all right, here are the concerns. But you're doing very well. And you should pat yourself on the back because you're learning this stuff. I mean, I'm very happy in general where you're going. I saw you had actually seen Dr. G's book, Taking Stock. If you haven't seen it, I'd also encourage his book, The Purpose Code.
The Purpose Code.
That's going to be
is that by Grummett also?
Yep. One of the big pictures you're going to get into is kind of like, what is the impact I want to make on the way out? The way I say it is kind of what's the second line of your obituary say? Like there's a bunch of that type of stuff that you're going to need to work on. There's low-hanging things to do, and that'll be in the checkup report. Hey, just get these things done.
Right.
And then there's like, okay, let me look at the bigger picture and let me work that through.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I'll devour your report. And it comes how soon?
Couple days, like 1 or 2 business days.
Oh, I'll take it with me.
When's your trip?
It is the actual tour. I'm doing some pre-stuff on the way. The actual tour is in the very, very first week of May. I'm staying over, doing some things, and then I think I probably am going to come back through Knoxville to see a cousin, and then past you all there, mid-May, latter part of May, something like that.
Awesome. Are you a reader by nature?
I am.
Okay, so the other book I'm going to put on your list called Essential Retirement Planning for Solo Agers. She talks a lot about how do you build a community, how do you age gracefully as a soloist. He was actually just on the podcast, so can link you to the podcast episode too. There's a lot of things that are different because of where you're at. And one of the things you're going to have to figure out is kind of like which community. So is the travel community. So like there's communities of soloists that travel together. Is that work for you? Like, I don't know. But that's where you're going to start playing with some of those things. And if you do it right, you'll figure out a solution that works for you.
Okay. Yeah. I'll let you. Yep. I sure will.
One last question. So how do you feel? We spent an hour talking together on this. Like, how do you feel overall?
I wondered is this going to be just a kick in the tail to get me off of dead center? And I feel like that's what we've done. And I feel good about that. I think I'm on my way.
Good. So
of course, everything has been an upheaval in just the last couple of years. It's kind of all new now, but I'll get there.
What I'd encourage is don't touch any of this stuff till you get back from your trip. Let's be real. There's nothing broken enough that I would worry about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Go experience your trip, have fun, kind of use that time to reflect on like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And what do I want to do? Which it sounds silly, but that's the type of questions. And then when you get back, you can walk through the checkup report. You can talk to some folks. You can get a little help and then just start chipping away at it. It's not there's nothing like in what you're doing that like freaks me out. It's all about optimization and getting the most out of your money and your time across your life.
That's how I've always felt. I have no issue with meeting my bills, but I love and have always been just dedicated to tax mitigation and efficiency of. So now I've got some other things in my life that I got to figure out some ways to be efficient about.
Yeah, and that's where tax stuff is more like investing you can do on your own, tax you need help with. And how do you optimize that over your life is a bigger question when you're spending down your money. Like that's kind of that question about like, how's it different from child free? Like there's a whole bunch of weird things that happen with taxes because you're child free. That's where you're working with a professional. But I will challenge you that realistically, we're not going to know some of the tax answers until the end of the year when we see the change of the laws. Because it's all changing at the end of the year no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I can make some guesses, but I'm not a fortune teller. If I was, I wouldn't be doing this. Like,
and with the tariff things and all that, up one day, down, I have been so blessed that I don't even have to worry about that crap. I can just wait it out. I've got plenty to get me by. I can wait it out if need be.
Yep. You've got a good mindset. I'm very happy with it. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out and we'll go from there.
If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a rating or review. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Please let us know your thoughts wherever comments are available or email us at media@childfreewealth.com. To stay up to date, find and follow Childfree Wealth on social media. If you're interested in working with us, learn more by visiting our website, childfreewealth.com. We'll see you next time.